As you know, everything in AI is currently going crazy. Every day you wake up, you have a new news happening about AI. That's the beauty of this work. Specifically, AI agents are being presented to you like some kind of magic that will actually transform your business overnight and make you millions. As much as I would like to stand here and tell you that this is the truth, and trust me, that would actually make my job way more easier, we are not yet there. And I say yet because potentially it might come, but again, not yet there in this specific moment. Truth is, building an AI agent reliable and effective is really difficult. And most examples you see online on YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, they are just cool demos that are not, in my opinion, system production ready, that can handle real use case. You will potentially have a lot of edge case coming with actually building AI agent and slapping AI agent everywhere. Think about it. Look at what's happening currently as we speak. Apple had to call back Apple Intelligence due to some hallucination, and see the promise of actually Jeff, our friend from Amazon, actually having Alexa, which is not AI ready yet. Nice information about the weather, but that's about it. Yet, if you look online, everybody is slapping agent everywhere on their workflow. Everyone seems to be building AI agents everywhere with ease. After helping more than 850 people in the AI automation journey and having 15 years of experience in DevOps, I can tell you what's actually the hype versus what's actually work. So in this video, I'm going to present you some fundamental in building workflow and every practical techniques I've learned so far to create automation that actually worked without the fluff. All right, we are now back in the presentation, and I'm going to show you and go through some fundamental for N8 and AI agent. So we need to understand what's an AI agent actually is, because I think there's a misunderstanding. I had a lot in the school community. I have actually people reaching out to me and mentioning as well, when is the good time to use an AI agent and when is not. And this actually the purpose of this actually video and the presentation is to go through this. So AI agent, when you see AI agent, doesn't mean that you need to put an AI agent in every workflow. 95% of my build are actually not using agentic or agent. The reason for that here, in this case, AI workflow, we have a fixed sequence A, B, C, and this actually use, as I said, 95% of time on my build. As an example here, from one of my last video where I literally go through how to build in 2025 using actually dynamic output for your client. As you see here, there is no agent. That's not an agent. I'm not letting an agent deciding over there. An agent will actually decide for you, meaning that you are actually going to increase your edge case. You're gonna have a lot of edge case whenever you do an AI automation. 9 out of 10 it worked, but then you have actually an edge case. That's actually what the agent is actually bringing into your scenario. As I mentioned, AI agent, dynamic path, meaning that A equal something, which mean will actually result of an output. I found a demonstration, like a video online, an AI agent everywhere. This is very, very difficult to maintain. Those are potentially, as I said on the introduction of the video, this is mainly potentially for demo purpose, to show you the capability of what an agent could actually do. But maintaining this, I wouldn't like. It's very difficult. You're gonna have a lot of edge case. So let me move to the next slide, why this matter for your workflow and the business. So again, I'm actually mentioning here standard AI workflow with a couple of examples. An email sequence automation, data transformation pipeline, a rule-based route X equal Y, then we do XYZ. Compared to an agent use case where customer support with unpredictable queries, research tools that need iterative analysis. So basically, this is the two difference of standard AI workflow and an agent use case. The takeaway on this is that always start with a workflow. Like always start with actually something that you can predict. Don't add an agent on day one thinking that will actually overnight improve your business. That's not the idea. Again, really, really, really important. 95% of the workflow I still build are actually, I call them flat. I'm not letting an agent deciding what to use. So very, very important over there. We are not yet 2025. We are not yet at this time of the recording. We are not yet into where you can let AI running your business 100% of the time. Choosing your right tool over there. So I call this the stack pyramid. Sounds simple, obviously. But here is the, we start with the base layer. So base layer, and I've built the presentation because I'm gonna go through toward the end of the video presentation. I'm gonna explain why I'm actually breaking it down into 3 different pyramids in this case. So we have the core integration, which is the API and the database. You wanna be able to obviously have an API integration for any of your automation. You might actually need to have an API integration. The API integration with the prompt is a major feature of your automation. So then we have the middle layer over there, which is actually a role-based logic. So basically basically anything that has a pass, like an if statement, a switch, a router, logic. This is actually what I call middle layer. And then we add obviously the LLMs and the memory. The choice of the LLMs is actually very secondary, depending on the context, the amount of token you need to put or you need to actually push. But this is actually very, very secondary as we speak. The first, like one of the most important, obviously, would be the prompt. I'm gonna go through the prompting for your workflow towards the presentation. I'm going to show you the essential component over there. System prompt, I just mentioned it before on the previous slide. The system prompt is actually one of your major improvements you can do. A bad example is you are a helpful assistant. I think I have actually so many, and I speak for myself, I have actually so many system prompts that are starting with you are a helpful assistant, or you are a web developer expert, or XYZ. That's actually a bad example. That's a bad prompt. A good example would be you are a top tier, so we give context within the system prompt. You are a top tier 3 support agent specialized in a SaaS billing company, never quote policy older than 2023, and escalate to human if user mention legal action. By doing this over there, this reduced hallucination by 68%. And I found this into one of the Stanford research when I was actually doing the research for this video over there. And I found it actually fascinating to see that like 68% was actually hallucination was actually avoided by 68% using actually a better system prompt. So system prompt is important. Your rules, I mentioned about it. N8 has a powerful rule-based system, a filter, a switch, and an if statement. Very, very powerful. If I go through a couple of slides back, this automation here, as you see, I have actually a loop, I have actually a switch statement over there on the last video, and that's actually just one of. I'm gonna show you another example toward later on the video presentation where I literally have a lot of actually rule base just for an expense filtering system, for example. We also then have a RAG system, which is actually one of the essential components. There is a misconception with the RAG system as well, and I'm gonna explain that in this slide. RAG, knowledge base over there, which allow you to connect internal wikis such as a Notion, for example, product database, Airtable, or an SQL database like PostgreSQL, for instance. And you can also connect a support ticketing system like Salesforce and Zendesk, which has potentially a KB knowledge base already built in over there. One of the use case would be user asking, can I get an educational account? Then can actually retrieve this information and avoid hallucination. Response time as well, based on the research, was actually 2.5 seconds for this use case over there. The reason why I'm bringing the RAG into the automation, this is very, very valuable. This is actually based on business. However, what I see online is that I see a lot of people having actually RAG system for a 2-page document. You don't need to do a RAG system for that. You don't need to have a RAG for a 2-page document. Anything that can contain and stay within your context windows for maximum amount of token you can actually use on your system prompt or on your user prompt on the LLM. Let's just not build a RAG for that, because one of the complexity with the RAG is to find the chunking size. So how many overlapping you can have between the text in order to ensure that you retrieve the right information. Something very, very important over there, keep in mind, don't bring and don't put a RAG everywhere. The 3 essential components would be system prompt, the rules, and the RAG system, very powerful over there. The RAG system allow you to enhance basic LLM without having to fine tune your model. That's actually the reason why RAG is actually very powerful. Moving to the pre-reliable architecture, the one that I use, and I mentioned earlier on the video, so the AI assisted routing. So in this case, this is a portion of what the expense filter I was mentioning about. Basically, I have this filter, like I'm using a lot of rules within N8 for this workflow. Basically, this workflow allows to scan the email address of company, find out actually what is the MasterCard or what is the credit card being used, and then actually forward this, like treat this as an invoice, provide a summary for the accountant, and then dispatch this to the right inbox. In order to use this, I have a lot of rules over there. So I have actually, I'm using a merge, I'm using actually, before we don't see the full pictures, but we have actually, I have an if statement, I have actually a switch being used. So the rule base majority of your build will be like this, AI assisting routing. We then have the approval system. Again, N8 has actually a human in the loop approval system. Very, very, very nice. As well, very useful. You will actually see, so AI draft something. We actually wait for the human to approve, and then the system continue the loop. This is an example over there. So I could literally just approve or not approved if I want the social content to be actually published over there. So that's a very, very important approval system. Very powerful over there that I see more being used. I know client actually like it. And so the last one would be actually an hybrid chaining. So in this case, I'm showing again all those workflows I've built over there. This is actually a mix between rules and LLM. So in this case, I have actually a couple of LLM being used with a mix of rules. So in this case, it's actually for influencer. This is an influencer researcher. So the customer can actually input the keyword that they're searching for, and then the system goes through the entire search on TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram, extract the bio of the user, passing into analyze the content just to be sure that it's actually matched the niche we're searching for, and then draft an email and upload this into a Google Sheet over there. So that's actually the three essential architecture we have within actually N8. Very important. Master those. Again, the AI assisted routing will actually potentially hybrid and AI assisted routing will be actually the rules or the architecture you would like to use majority of the time. My advice, so we are actually approaching the end. My advice to build a reliable system would be foundation first. That's extremely important. 83% of the agent workflow fail from skipping basic automation. The amount of people I'm hearing say, oh, I want to automate my entire business. That's the wrong approach. I don't actually believe we can automate 100% of the business. We can automate quite a lot. You cannot actually automate 100% of the business. When I'm hearing I want to automate 100% of my business, where you need to actually realize that, okay, I need to actually refrain myself and actually focus more on the day-to-day activity, something that I could actually potentially automate that could actually save. Again, I mentioned that on the previous video, very important, non-billable hour. That's if you have something take away from all the video I'm actually releasing is like, how can you help your client, your customer for non-billable hours? Again, 100%. When a client say, I want to automate 100% of my business, this is where you need to actually help the client to define and say, I will help you automate this task, or how many hours your team spend every week on this specific task. And then you need to refine your client or refine yourself. If you are running your automation yourself, you need to refine over there. For instance, build an email triage and then let actually add an AI classifier later, right? So basically make a rule, say, okay, I want to have triage emails in N8 is very easy. Something you can actually do quite simply, and that's actually very powerful over there. Just actually start small and then start add complexity. Again, do not build a full autonomous agent day one, break it down. You need to break it down before trying to bring an agent at one point. Again, the agent as well, the time when you have to choose between an AI workflow and an agent is like agent will actually be used if you need to do analytics. I mentioned that on the first slide, but you need to do iterative analytics, research agent, for example, something that need to do some research, that this is a good use case for an agent. Blueprint, so advice number 2, blueprint everything. Wireframing equal win for the long term. I've actually understood this too late, my opinion, and I'm now wireframing majority of my flow. When I do wireframing, it's like a high level overview of how is the user input and what's the end result and all the step in between. My workflow work like this. Whiteboard flow, so I go to a whiteboard, Miro, Whimsical, ClickUp. I have actually whiteboard as well. Doesn't matter the tools you use. You want to identify the choke point. So what is the user will actually potentially have a choke point over there where they're spending a lot of time either for the research or there's a lot of time for processing data. Data processing is an extremely good use case for an AI workflow, not an agent workflow, an AI workflow. We then actually put mock data, so we actually providing information. It can be an API calls, and in N8 you can do that fairly quickly, fairly easily by actually having a pin or unpinned data at the top. So that's very important over there to use. So you make one API call, you have actually data that you can modify afterwards, and then you can actually play and actually try to come along with final version. Then I validate this by the client, and then I start to build. When I say mock data and validate by the client, what does it mean? I'm trying to do like maybe a prototype, maybe an MVP. Say, okay, this is not perfect, but here's what I have so far, and I'm spending maybe an hour on this. Then I'm actually waiting for the feedback. Again, human in the loop kind of approach where I'm going through the client and I say, all right, is this what you're looking for? This way, I don't do a full 3 weeks deployment sprint and then turns out that the client say, oh, this is not what I'm looking for, right? So I understood this too late, in my opinion. That's why I'm like reworking this, internally speaking. Wireframing first equal win for the long term. Context armor, again, garbage in, hallucination out. That's actually very important. If you actually have a lot of information and all of those information are garbage, you're gonna either have actually we mention usually garbage out. In this case, I'm saying hallucination out. We're gonna have a lot of issue with actually LLM understanding the request. So AI is only good as the information you provide. Without quality context, expect hallucination, tool minuses, vague response, or failed task. On this, I've actually mentioned system prompt. Define the agent. If we speak about an agent now, define the agent role and responsibility. Specifically for an agentic approach, the prompt is actually the system prompt is very important. If you actually do not name your tools or actually have a too vague prompt, you need to have a very good prompt for agentic workflow. Set the the rules and guidelines, exactly, and provide a key business fact. You need to show a lot of examples. What I've found working well on some of the agents workflow I've built, but what I've done is like provide key business fact. That's actually something very valuable for the agent to understand what to do, what to use. User-specific context, store conversation history. In case, for example, you want to use the chat version, you can actually put in-memory option in N8, very powerful over there, just to have context. I've actually seen this in one of the school classroom I've done with the guild. We actually added Postgres database for memory. Remember previous interaction, that's exactly what it does, and include customer-specific information, like you want to be able to extract this information within actually the prompt, could actually coming from the API or could be actually coming from the document. Again, your prompt is extremely important. Vector database, when to use them, also something I wanted to touch base on this video. I see a lot of people say, oh, should I do a vector database? And I mentioned it about earlier on the video. Is it a good time? When do I have to use a vector database? Don't use a vector database for everything. Best for unstructured data, a text, document, or a PDF, not a PDF of 2-page. A document, like a PDF, right? Like, I don't know, 50 page, for instance, that's a good size for a vector database. This is actually not ideal for structured or relational data. What's actually relational data? SQL, so Postgres, MySQL is actually relational data. So as I mentioned, don't vector DB, don't use a vector database over there for a structured data. So organize in tables, so row column. An Excel sheet has no reason to be inside your vector database, unless it's actually very extremely long Excel sheet over there. But like basically this is structured data with row and columns. If you mix this into, if you have one reference of this table in your vector database and your chunking is wrong, you will actually have issue retrieving this information. Predictable schema, example, user profile, sales record, invoices. This is actually the best place to store them into a relational database. So Postgres database, MySQL, like a regular database. Query with SQL for exact matches. That's exactly what I meant over there. You want now to use actually this vector database for unstructured data. So when you don't have a fixed structure, example, document, email for tone of voice, article, transcript, those are actually best for being stored into your vector database. You want to actually enable semantic search beyond exact keyword matching. This is exactly, you want to let actually the system, the agents retrieve, hey, I have potential information on this vector database, now retrieve this information. Let the LLM analyze vector database view and then retrieve the information based on the best matches. AI agent, vector database, don't slap them together every time. You need to actually be mindful in order to actually build a system that will not cause you headache to maintain. You really want to be able to, when you build your AI automation, again, I mentioned it before, start small, but don't actually try to slap AI agent and then actually vector database, and it will actually just cause you a lot of headache, and maintainability wise, this is not actually worth it. You need to actually always think about maintainability. That's very important. And the last advice would be master prompt engineering. Prompting is an art. Find the balance. Before, a couple of months ago, we needed to actually be very detailed on the prompt. As LLM become more intelligent, in my opinion, we don't have to be so strict within the prompt. So again, this is the reason why I mentioned find the balance, right? In an autonomous system, you only get one shot. That's right. Reactive prompting versus proactive prompting. I mentioned start with minimal prompt. Test the agent if you're building for an agent, or if you're building for a workflow specific, right? Like an AI workflow, doesn't actually need to be an agent. Test the agent with actually real input. So test basically your workflow with real input. Very important. If the client is telling you, oh, I want to do XYZ, try to find first the API that will actually do whatever you need to do, and then get your prompt, very minimalistic prompt, and then test it like 10, 20, 50 times just to see if you don't have an edge case over there. The workflow I showed you before, the one that I sold for the influencer research, one of the points was I'm analyzing the comment to actually ensure that the system is actually working or retrieve the information that actually within the niche, right? So for example, if I'm searching for a crypto influencer, is the comment match crypto? If the answer is yes, then it matched the niche. If it say no, then analyze those comments and then retrieve and tell me, classify if this is an influencer in crypto, yes or no. You need to test that. You need to iterate the prompt. I found so many edge cases just with this approach that you need to actually iterate, start small and then start iterating as soon as you see an edge case. But you want to be able to run multiple times. You need to be able to run actually multiple times just to find the edge case. Observe the behaviors is what I mentioned. Add a specific prompt to correct issue. Again, as I mentioned, you want to iterate, like you want to start small prompt, but then you would actually add as you go through, as your AI automation grow, as you developing the AI workflow, you want to actually increase and actually add more context to your prompt potentially. You want to test again and repeat until it's reliable. Key element of a strong AI agent prompt, the role needs to be defined, and this is actually mainly majority of for every prompt, not only for agent, right? For any like an AI workflow, for instance, you want to have the role needs to be defined. Who is the agent, or what's actually you are a helpful assistant. It's a bad example, but this is the role. The context just explain what input to expect. So again, I like to do a show and tell. That's also very, very important. You want to show the AI, I'm expecting this, and you tell this is right because XYZ. So show and tell is very important. Tool instruction, if you're speaking about agent, you need to be specific on your tools. The tool usage is actually very important. So define available tools, when to use them. And rule and constraint, set boundaries to prevent hallucination. Again, you need to mention it. Like if you connect with your agent or your workflow, you connect a RAG system. Maybe you want to lower the temperature on your information. I don't see this spoken a lot on YouTube, for instance, but playing with temperature is very, very important as well. If you don't like fancy at one point or too many hallucination, tone it down a little bit and you might potentially improve your workflow over there. Example, show correct handling of a specific scenario. For example, again, the show and tell, I'm doing it a lot. I'm showing what I'm expecting, and then I'm showing as well something that I'm not expecting. So then the system understands the difference between the two. That's everything you need to know about choosing between agents and your regular AI workflow without the hype. There's a lot here, but if you take the fundamental I've been sharing and applying those for your AI automation, I'm pretty confident you will actually see improvement within the next 30 days. As always, guys, if you liked the video, please subscribe and thumbs up. Please put a comment down below of what you would like me to cover next week. And before I go, if you want to learn more about implementing or doing your first AI workflow, implementing AI for your business, or even running your AI business in less than 30 days, please click on the first link of this description below, which will take you to my private school community group with like-minded people. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next week. Peace.